So when you hear the word jihad, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of people, it's a physical battle. But what if I told you that in the Islamic tradition, the most important, the most difficult, and honestly the most celebrated battle isn't fought on some faraway field? Nope, it's fought right here, within the landscape of your own self. Let's really get into this incredible concept known as the greater jihad, the struggle with the self.
Okay, I want you to picture this. You've got a group of soldiers, they're totally exhausted, but they're victorious, and they're coming back from a really tough military campaign. They faced their enemies, they won, and now they're heading home expecting a hero's welcome. As they get closer, the Prophet Muhammad comes out to greet them, but what he says, well, it's probably the last thing they expected to hear.
You can just imagine the confusion, right? The lesser jihad, they just risked their lives. What could possibly be greater than the battle they just won? So they ask him, "O Messenger of God, what is the greater jihad?" And his answer, it changes everything. He tells them the greater jihad is the struggle against your own self.
And this, right here, lays out the core idea perfectly. The outer struggle, the one fought with swords and shields against a physical enemy, that's considered the lesser of the two. The truly heroic, the really challenging struggle, the greater one, is that constant, moment-by-moment battle we all fight against our own internal desires, our ego, and our weaknesses. So if the real fight is inside, we'd better get to know the battlefield.
To really get a handle on this struggle, we have to meet the central character in this whole internal drama. It's a concept known as the nafs.
So, what in the world is the nafs? It's really easy to think of it as, a good self versus a bad self, kind of like that classic angel and demon sitting on your shoulders. But the real concept is so much deeper than that. It's not about having multiple selves fighting it out. It's about one single self with a bunch of competing forces inside it.
That's right. You are one single self. But inside that self, you've got all these different pulls and pushes. The whole point of this inner struggle isn't to destroy some bad part of you. Not at all. It's to understand and manage these internal forces so you can consciously choose which direction you want to head in.
Think of it this way. Your self has this natural pull to reach for something higher, for purpose, for connection, for spiritual growth. But at the exact same time, it feels this constant downward tug, almost like a spiritual gravity. This pull is called hawa, which literally means a falling. It's that tendency toward our more basic material desires that, if we don't keep an eye on them, can pull us way down from our highest potential. The greater jihad, then, is the daily effort to resist that gravity and keep reaching up.
Okay, so how do we actually fight this inner battle? What are our weapons? Well, the sources give us some incredibly powerful metaphors to help us get a handle on the tools we have.
I mean, that is just a stunning idea, isn't it? Picture yourself as a surgeon, standing over your own soul in an operating room. You've been given everything you could possibly need to perform this incredibly delicate procedure.
Let's break this down just like a surgeon would. Step 1, the diagnosis. The tradition is super clear about what the spiritual diseases are. Things like greed, arrogance, unchecked anger. Step 2, the goal. We know what spiritual health looks like. It's a state of inner peace, of balance. Step 3, the cure. The tools are all there for us. Things like meditation, prayer, self-discipline. And that leaves the final and most critical step, action. You're the surgeon. The tools are right there in your hands. The responsibility to actually make the first cut, that's all on you.
Here's another amazing metaphor. Think of your life like a building that rests on 4 pillars. For it to be stable, you have to keep these pillars in their proper place. But as you can see here, we often get it all wrong. We let our heart, which should be a companion that we guide, become a master that we blindly follow. We treat our nafs, which is supposed to be the enemy we struggle with, as a master that we serve. And when these pillars get misplaced, the entire structure of our life just gets shaky and unstable, and that inner struggle feels completely impossible.
All right, so we've got the concepts. We have these powerful metaphors. But when does this battle actually happen? I mean, where does the rubber meet the road? Well, it happens in specific, high-stakes moments where our emotions are running wild and our self-control is put to the ultimate test.
And the stakes here are unbelievably high. The sources tell us that if you don't build an inner voice of guidance, an internal system of self-control, you've basically just handed the car keys over to your lower self. You've let the enemy take the wheel. The whole game is about building that inner restraint, and the tradition points to 5 critical moments where this matters more than anywhere else.
So what are these 5 key emotional states? Well, according to the tradition, these are the make or break moments.
These are the situations where mastering yourself is absolutely crucial if you want to achieve any kind of spiritual freedom.
These are the moments of maximum vulnerability, right? When you feel that intense desire, that overwhelming fear, a crazy appetite, blinding anger, or even that subtle trap of being too satisfied with yourself, too proud. It's in these supercharged emotional moments that the nafs tries to grab the controls. The person who can stay centered and disciplined in these 5 situations, that's the person who has truly started to master their inner world. And what does a victory in this war even look like in day-to-day life? It's not always some grand heroic act. Sometimes it's something as simple and yet as profoundly difficult as this. Just waking up in the morning and setting the intention, today I'm not going to harm a single person. The source reminds us that just making that sincere intention can be harder than the action itself, because our lower self, the nafs, often fights us on even the commitment to do good before we've even gotten out of bed.
Which brings us all the way back to that first big question. Why? Why is this internal struggle, this daily intention to just not do harm, considered greater than a physical war? Well, the answer lies in a piece of philosophy that is, frankly, pretty mind-expanding.
According to this way of seeing things, there are 2 universes. First, there's the lesser universe, which is everything outside of you, the whole cosmos, all the stars, the galaxies, everything. And then there is the greater universe, and that universe is you. There's an ancient saying that puts it perfectly. Do you think you are a small entity when in you is folded the entire great universe?
And there it is. That's the answer. The struggle against the self is the greater jihad, because the self is the greater universe. The outside world is just a reflection. To bring order and peace and discipline to your own inner world is a far greater, way more significant, and infinitely more difficult task than conquering any city or nation in the outer world.
So in the end, the real hero, the ultimate mujahid, the one who struggles, isn't the person who conquers armies, but the one who strives every single day to master the universe inside. And that reframes our whole idea of what strength and victory really mean, leaving all of us with a really important question to think about. In the greater battle for your own self, who's winning?